All right, quick update. You can see we have the rudder attached. This has taken me 2 days to get this right. The reason being is because cutting these slots to the proper depth is very difficult, and I'll try to explain the best I can. So there are these hinges here, and you'll notice they have a little eyelet. And that eyelet is such that there is a rod, a 2mm rod, as you can see right here on the bottom, right there in the black rod, that passes through a tube that's in the leading edge of the rudder. And to give you a better perspective, let me show you the elevator. So this is the elevator right here. And you can see this also has the little red tube, and you can see it right there. Anyway, so what happens is these hinges here are placed in the slots that are here, and the slots that you see cut here in the actual rudder itself. And then the rod is then placed through that red tube, and that's what holds this in place. And you have to get the proper depth, because if you don't, then the rod will not go through that little tiny hole there. So that was the very tricky part. And then getting the spacing correct, because there was already pre-cut slots in the vertical stabilizer, but there were none in the rudder. And then the other issue is you have to get the proper spacing and width of the slots, because you have to have proper spacing here at the top of the rudder and here at the bottom of the rudder, as you can see, right here, so it's not getting hung up on everything. And we have got it just right, nice and smooth. So that's the first step with the rudder. The second step is we have to take these here and sandwich them down here. And I'll show you the configuration on my Hanger 9 P3 Ultimate biplane. So if you look here at the way that those two pieces are hinged, or the horns are set up, they actually sandwich the ball length between the two of them. That's what we're going to do on the pond racer. And you can see it's not just one side, it is both sides. So you can see the horn over here as well as the other side. And that is exactly what we need to do on the pond racer. So that's the tricky part. And figuring out exactly where to place it is also particularly difficult as well. So that's one step. So once these are in place, then we'll be good to go. The tricky part will be gluing these the hinges in place here, because they just slide right in. I gotta take this out anyway, so actually, you know what, I'm gonna leave this in. I'll show you later. But anyway, that's hinged, and more to come. All right, continuing with our pond racer update of the Air Sea Race 40% scale Burt Rutan pond racer. We're looking at the elevator right now, and I just finished cutting the slots for the hinges. And of course, once again, we have the same plastic tube here that our 2mm carbon fiber rod is passing through, and it'll pass through here. All three of them. You only need 3 hinges on this elevator. It's not real big, as you can see, compared to my hand. But then we're also, once we have these finished, we're going to be cutting a slot to put 2 of these control horns in place, and we're going to use the same sandwiching technique as mentioned in the rudder. And to give you a perspective of what I'm talking about, once again, we're going to reference our Hanger 9 P3 biplane, and there is the same sandwich, there we go, sandwich type control horn, whereby the ball length goes right in between, and that's exactly what we're going to wind up doing with the pond racer there. So moving right along. And just to let you know, for anybody that's going to be building this, to cut this, I used a Micro Mark table saw, and then all I did is I lifted this end up and I took the elevator and just dragged it right across the blade. It gave a perfect depth. Did the same technique with the rudder as well, and it worked great. And you can see it's not very tall. It's a small tabletop, as you can see, but this thing is wonderful, and they still sell it on micromark.com. All right, more to come. All right, continuing with our Air Sea Race Pond Racer update. You can see we have one of our elevators installed. Right now it's just taped in place. The hinges aren't glued. What I'm doing now is I'm actually working on the right, and you can see here I'm actually working on cutting the slots. And what I did is I actually took a magic marker here and I colored the end of one of the horns red, and I used it as a stamp to stamp the exact location. Then I've just been taking an X-Acto blade and cutting it out, and this is what we're ending up with. And it makes for a perfect fit, as you can see. This just slides right in there like so. So one of the things that I've discovered in doing the hinging is these hinges are too small. They're too short. They're great hinges, but they're just too short. They need to be out probably at least another 1/4 of an inch, if not a little bit more. So I've ordered, this is a fiberglass plate that it's cut from. So I've ordered some more fiberglass plate from Amazon. That's going to be on its way. So right now we have this in process, and we'll go ahead, we'll get all the hinges slotted and get it taped in place like I've done here with the left elevator and of course the rudder itself as well, as you can see. And then we'll just keep on keeping on. All right, more to come. All right, continuing on, we've got the right elevator hinged and in place. And now we're going to go ahead and start working on the control horn. It has to be 10 millimeters away from the nearest hinge point. And we're going to be using these, and they're going to be installed like this, facing that direction. We're going to have 2 of them. They're going to be sandwiched, like I indicated on the previous video. So here we go. All right, continuing with our update, we have gone ahead and sandwiched our control horns in place for our elevator. We're starting with our right elevator first. This is actually pretty straightforward, and I'll explain what we did. So chatting with the manufacturer, Michael, over at Air Sea Race, you make the initial cut 10 centimeters from the hinge. So here's the hinge point, and then we went 10 centimeters this way, as you can see there, okay? So you make the first cut here. We used a right angle here, put against the trailing edge, as you can see, and then that allows you to go ahead and to draw a straight line at the 10 centimeter mark, on this side. Sorry, on this side over here. So you make the initial cut there, and you have to make sure that when making the initial cut on this, remember now there's this rod that's here that helps to hold it in place on the hinge. So that has to clear it. And you can see if you look in the slots right there, it just cleared it. So it's just perfect. And then what I did to do the second cut, I then sandwiched these 2 together. This is a wonderful ball link from a company called swbmfg.com. Once again, swbmfg.com. 440. Sandwich in between at the top and also at the bottom, as you can see down there. And it provides a perfect width in terms of spacing for the control horn. Then you simply take it and you just kind of put one side here, draw a line on the other, and then just go ahead and make the necessary cuts, and it's a perfect sandwich. So we're going to use the same control horn and do the left side now. More to come. All right, continuing with our update, you can see we've got our left elevator here, and we've got a sandwich. I love a good sandwich. So that is done. I can't glue this in place just yet. I'm waiting on another horn because the other horn that I have here, the hole on the left there is way bigger than the other hole from the previous owner who drilled it out for some reason. Anyway, so it's sandwiched. Same technique. Went really well. As you can see, we'll just have to glue it in place. We're going to have to put in some filler in between there, because if you look carefully, the only wood in there is what makes up the leading edge. There's nothing else in there. It's just a hollow elevator. So we'll have to put some wood in there to reinforce it. But outside of that, it went really well. So the next is going to be the rudder. We need to create a sandwich for the rudder. And now that I have the technique down, this is going to be pretty straightforward for the most part. So anyway, that's it for today.